This is the Power of Osmosis podcast, powered by the Vidwheel Creator Network. Hi, this is the Power of Osmosis video podcast, powered by the Vidwheel Creator Network. I am John Osberg, aka Johnny Osmosis, alongside Jeannine Brown Miller, or aka for her, JBM. JBM, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so nice to be here, John. I was looking forward to this, actually.
Thanks for your flexibility too. Talk about candor as an underscore to everything I do. Appreciate you being flexible and ready to rock and roll here this fine morning. Looking forward to this too, and all the similarities between the two of us, both personally and professionally. And it was great seeing you too Monday at Trek. I know we already said that, but Trek co-working incubator there. It was nice to see your face there on the Zoom screen.
Yeah, that's a wonderful opportunity for people to get together. So I was definitely glad to be there, even though I was Zoom, good old camera.
You're everywhere though. You're out, you're out and about in the new age, and you're doing great work for so many, companies and individuals, and maybe not as, I guess it is individual based too, but
yes.
That's a great, again, and by the way, it's JBM, Jeannine Brown Miller of HR Websource. My apologies. I've only had half a cup of coffee and you'd think I had about 5. So, but great to have you. And there's so many similarities, family connections, Niagara University, fellow Purple Eagles, go Perps go, and just our passion for entrepreneurship, for community, and for adding value to the lives of others, both companies and individuals alike. So great to have you. And the floor is yours to unpack some more about who you are and what you're doing.
Sure. Okay. Well, if we do go back to how I even met the Osbergs, it was my NU days. I, first of all, was a student there, where your father was my adjunct professor. So he was young then too.
That's crazy.
But it was fun. And then after Niagara University, I went on to graduate school, received my degree in industrial organizational psychology. Long story short, worked a little out in the Connecticut, New York City area, came back home and landed Niagara's HR department to run. So I was a director of HR, once again, able to work alongside your dad, because then he became full-time teaching at Niagara. And he respected colleague for many years and good friend to date. So I was there about 18 years, loved Niagara. You need that experience. You just need it. But by the end of the last few years there, I was thinking I needed to do something different. I love the field of HR and organizational development. And so I wanted to spend a little more time doing specifically what I like to do and kind of remove myself from the executive role, but get in a position where I could help other executives, other business owners, other leaders, people who, need to know some helpful things on how to run their business from utilizing their employees effectively. So my focus for my business is HR compliance, which I know a lot of people really don't like, but I happen to really love it because I know the relevance of it. And more fun than that, I love implementing these laws and regulations into practice, tying it into who these people are. I'm always about the client's mission, their personality, their style, whatever it might be, because we have to customize everything in order to fit the company or organization I'm working with. So I serve as a third-party HR person to several clients, a lot of them small businesses who can't otherwise afford to or need to bring on a full-time experienced HR person. I also support less experienced HR people to get them up to speed because this field's very complex. So I am that go-to person for these up-and-coming HR people. Certainly I'm coaching leaders on a regular basis. And I also plug in as an HR executive for organizations that have a vacancy. That's kind of fun. You go in there and, you're kind of holding down the fort. So what I do is I just quickly go in, assess the situation and do what I can to keep the department moving along. But a lot of cases, even solving some of the issues they've had and then having it ready for the new person who's going to be hired for that role. So that's a lot of fun. And then I like to focus on organizational development and change management. I'm always one of these people that has learned that the only thing certain in life is change. And so we need to be ready. We need to be ready. If we haven't learned that this past year, I don't know when we will, but that whole idea of learn to pivot, learn to really focus and try to figure out how to always work most effectively. So I do a considerable amount of that. And in that case, I work with large organizations as well, as you can imagine. I am in a variety of industries. At this point, I've been out there about 13 years. So I've been in a lot of different organizations, a lot of industries, hospital systems, not-for-profits, you name it. Because with HR, it's not about, I don't need to know their business. I need to know my business and how it impacts what they do, right? Because everybody has that need to be able to effectively handle their employees.
Yeah, and a company is only as strong as their people. So you're there to fill that function. And I mean, that's something that rings true in my line of work, right? And we're both solopreneurs. So shout out there too on all of our synergies and mutual, interests and endeavors. So yeah, I mean, I love hearing that. And the word you use, pivot, that word is one I've used a lot in the past, and it was before COVID, because my life seemed to have pivoted quite a bit over the last couple of years. And love to hear more about what you're seeing in the marketplace as it relates to pivots and HR.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, you mentioned people, right? That's what it's all about. And that's one thing that I make sure anybody that engages with me fully understands, that I'm very big on gaining and sustaining employee engagement. That is, to me, the only way to effectively implement change in an organic manner that's sustainable over time as well. So my clients hear that ad nauseum. We no matter what types of decisions we're going to make, we want to involve the people that it touches. The decisions on top are not necessarily going to work. We really don't know what they're doing. We don't know their work best. They do. So I come at everything I do from that manner. And honestly, that's been the success of what I do, especially with change management. So again, for this COVID time, you talk about change. The last year, I wasn't sure how my business was going to be affected, actually, as none of us did, right? Yeah. But it turned out, and I'm grateful to say that I was extremely busy, but my focus, of course, was on COVID. How do we manage COVID? One of the things that was particularly fun was I had a live webinar with Pat Whalen and Roscoe from the NU Trek. And we did that every week live. And we would have different topics every week. And we would bring people who are professionals given the particular subject area to come on and talk to the group. And it was extremely well received. It was fun to do it. And it was very important because, as we know with COVID, things changed daily during that time. For several months, we didn't know, which executive order would be next. So that has been my life. And then, of course, getting clients up to speed on what they need to change in order to deal with the new regulations, which there are so many. So naturally, I would talk to them about, how is this affecting your organization structure? Do you need all the same employees you did before? If you don't, let's help them transition out. I also do career coaching and leadership coaching. So I offered free support during the pandemic to help anyone who needed to figure out what else they could do if they're losing their jobs.
Like a good Purple Eagle Vincentian-minded individual would do.
Yes. Well, it just was like anything you could do to get people to look forward rather than live in that dark cloud. So I was out there really trying to encourage that. Also with clients, we're always looking at cost-effective measures and efficiencies. Even office space need changes, right? Because now a lot of people are working from home. That was a whole other thing we had to deal with. How do we manage that? What technology do we need? What are the security issues you have to think about? Do they have space that's appropriate for work? Because workers' comp and all those things are still in effect while they're working, whether they're at home or not. So I wrote a lot of policies related to leave plans, telecommuting, alternative work schedules, flexible scheduling, anything we could do to make sure we didn't worry about it, but learned how we were going to handle it. So the remote work culture, of course, is something that has been a very big focus this past year. And actually, some of my employees already do some of it because it just is how people like to work. Some people, right? There's still those that want to go to an office or they feel they're too distracted at home. And in any case, we have to do a case-by-case basis because when somebody's working remote, you have to look at the type of work they're doing to see if it's appropriate and also if they're the right person to work in that kind of situation. So there's just a whole lot to maneuver there, and a lot of organizations struggle with it. So I'm here to really guide them through it because it's not as difficult as it seems, but they do need to, organize their work situation and make sure they have policies related. And then there was a lot of use of my online webinars. I continually update those because I keep them very relevant. They're very short because I'm one of these people that doesn't like to sit and listen to much too. I'm very impatient. So I approach my work that way. I figure, let me get the information out there, give people tactical approaches so they could do it themselves if they need to. They can go on my website, get a topic, look at it, and actually apply whatever the issues might be. It's used a lot for anti-harassment, annual compliance training as well. So again, I try to provide the highest level of HR support and services in the most cost-effective manner and also time efficient, because that's what it's all about, I think.
There's so much here. I should have had this sooner, and I have done another, but I've got my notepad here because there's a lot of good things that are being you're saying. Excuse me. And you talked about focus, and I'd be curious to hear from one solopreneur to another, how you are managing your time, because the lines are blurred here in COVID, right? Because we're working from home. We were talking before the call, before our pod, you have dogs, I've got a dog. So it's like, how do we manage ourselves, and how do we manage too? I know you're someone who believes in leadership, inspirational, motivational type content and messaging. How have you as a solopreneur managed your emotions, expectations? I mean, this is what a bad podcaster does, is too many layers. So how have you managed, your day to day and how you are doing business, but also living, outside of business? Because as a solopreneur, they blur, right? And I'm finding myself working till 9 o'clock at night, 7 days a week, because I'm living in it, and I just have to go down the stairs to go to my office. So how are you balancing, as you help companies balance, right, how they manage their employees? How are you balancing as a solopreneur your life between business and life?
I've had a home office for the last 13 years. So that particular situation is well set up. And if anything, to be perfectly honest, because more people are remote and we're using video conferencing, I can get a lot more done because I'm not driving places. So in my case, I could get 7 meetings in, and where if I'm driving out to people, I might be able to do 3 that day. So for me, given the volume that came my way, especially, it was actually easier because I was in front of a computer with them. So that, technology is everything with this, and even scheduling, like, I am it, right? So you were saying, well, how do we do this? Well, you have to stay out there in social media and all of that. Well, I use technology to its fullest. I do have consultants that I rely on to help me focus, but I am kind of efficiency is my thing, and it's what I do for clients. So I kind of find it easy to manage volume and my workday. Now, I will tell you this: I usually am, let's say, I walk out of my office about the same time every day, certainly like 5 or so. But I will never refuse a text or email response that a client needs. I love what I do. It's not work to me. If I could get somebody to be rested for the night, I'm going to answer it. I'm very high focused on others in terms of supporting them, making them comfortable, and whatever it takes, I will do it. So nobody waits. I just don't believe in it. And I don't feel it's imposing. I feel people are very respectful. But again, if they have that burning urge, and usually that's through text, I'm definitely going to get back to them. I think it's a Sunday night. It was 10:30. And I'm thinking, this person won't sleep until I get this answer to them. So I did. So, I mean, it's just, again, I love what I do. So I never feel like I'm working. And I know that's an overused phrase out there, but I'm telling you from practical experience, working for myself, I'm able to do what I love to do. So it's
JBM, I love that. Thank you for that. And it's funny. There's something just clicked for me in my brain on that topic, because I use the word cliche a lot. Like, it sounds like a cliche, but here's the thing. It's a cliche in theory, meaning what you just said. I love what I do, so I don't feel like I'm working. So in theory, it's a cliche, which is, I feel like probably 90, I'm just throwing numbers, but maybe it's 90% of the time when someone says like they'd love to be doing what they love, that's in theory, because they don't know when they're actually practicing it. You and I are practitioners of that exact mantra of loving what you do, to the point of which brings me to my next question. And then I want to make sure we jump into some SME subject matter expertise, for our millions of watchers and listeners that are on here, will be on here. So you mentioned pivot, and then that made me think of curveballs, which is what kind of prompted the question of like the blurred lines of a lot of people seeing, the life and work balance being maybe being with remote setup there now. And again, I want to, after this, all these philosophical things I'm kind of bringing out, like I said, I want to hop into some serious, action items and takeaways for business owners and people working for businesses. But what's your take on the line of passion and obsession? So like, for me, I'm obsessed. I will come out right out front and say I'm obsessed with connecting people, companies, and causes for the betterment of everyone. I so love that. It's my calling. I can't turn it off 24/7. Learned that from my dad, as I've said many times in other podcasts, with what he does in psychology. What's your take on that? Being passionate about something, but also obsession. Is there what do you think?
I don't believe doing anything to an extreme, to too much of an extreme, is necessarily a good thing. Okay. Life is about balance.
Love that.
So passion is, what makes you tick, what you're naturally good at, your innate abilities. When you're doing it, you feel the energy. That's healthy and good. I think, though, anything taken to any extreme can be as much a negative as it is good. So it's just trying to work and balance that all out. I think, again, when I do coaching, when people are frustrated in a job, the reason usually is they're not a good match for it. And it's hard to take that leap. When I left Niagara, on paper, I looked like I had the most ideal job there was. I left when my kids were about to get free educations. Okay. So I worked all through that time. Right. But I was not fully excited fulfilled anymore. I was not. And I had to do something different. So I tell people it's like going at the edge of a cliff, jumping, and just really that leap of faith, right? That's true leap of faith. I took that, literally left everything. I have never looked back. Now, was that easy? No. I mean, I was scared, I was like, what do I do? But you know what I did? I put fear into action. So what I do is I don't stay in a dark place. Gratefully, I've had a lot of experiences to learn resilience, right? So I just go into, okay, what do I do now? What do I do now? And so what I did was spend all my time networking, meeting people, trying to determine how this was going to come together. And I did it to relationship build, not to find work. So it was a different feel, because I'm not good at that. I'm not somebody that, I don't feel I'm good at marketing, right? Because that's just not my thing. I just want to build relationships. Once they know what I do, I want to be there to help them. That's just how I approach my life with work and personal life. I'm here to help. I'm here to support. I'm here to guide. And I don't even look at what others are doing, right? In the industry, it doesn't matter to me. I know what I do, and I just want to be sure others understand that, whatever support they need, it's there. I also am an author, and I only bring this up to say that I was encouraged to turn my difficulties into something that was more formally available for people to review. Now, I never thought I'd write a book, never frankly wanted to write a book, but I did because I understood others needed to understand how to come back from difficulties in life, right. Challenges of any type. My case was one of the maybe more extremes, having lost a son suddenly. And then, people would say to me, how do you do this? How do you smile? How do you get up and go? I needed to explain that. I needed to help people understand that because it's very possible. And we need to do that. We need to find ways of being our best versions, the best versions of ourselves. We can't sink from disappointments and failures and challenges and struggles. And in this case, trauma. We need to figure out what the lesson is in it. What did we learn from it? How did we grow from it? Why can I smile? Why am I still happy? Where is there hope? In my case, I do focus a lot on my faith. And I do encourage people to find something like that because frankly, I don't know how to do without, but that's my journey. So that's why I wrote the book. It's just fitting into, again, what I do for a living is to try to help people resolve their problems, right? How to maneuver difficult situations. So whether it's work related or personal, I've done a lot of speaking engagements related to, walking the path of grief and that sort of thing. But bottom line, and I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it's just to fit into, I bring who I am and then I give my best at it and I love it. And if I can, I'm not one of these people that need recognition. If I make someone look good, that's made my day. So that's my focus. And I really love my clients. I love people. So it makes this very easy. And I do like HR. I'm an HR geek. I love it. I love the compliance stuff. I'm one of the few that do, but I love it. So
well, and thank you for sharing that too. I'm so glad you did. And that's powerful. That's impactful and resonant. What's the title of the book for our listeners?
76 Feathers. That's loaded. Jonathan was a high school football player and his number was 76. And feathers were messages, and I'm going to put it out there. I get feathers in the oddest places. So that's almost a whole nother discussion, but they are, clear messages of comfort to me, of peace and contentment with these white feathers. So that's explained quite a bit in there. And a lot of people get it, more people do than not, those kinds of messages, but it is what it is. I never knew about it, but it happens. So it helps. The name of the book helps bring together the journey of a life well lived. My son was, honestly, he was extraordinary in ways I didn't know until he died. Okay. I learned a lot about him actually. And I needed to talk about that because his purpose was fully, completed, his mission on earth. And it made it very clear to me on how impactful his life was to others. So I couldn't be sad about that. Yes, I miss him terribly, but our life is about what we're supposed to do. And once our purpose is out there, right, we've done it, our time is done. So I do believe in that, the mission complete. So that helps you, that helps you move through life and realize, you miss someone and you love them, but look what they did for others. And that's all I could ask of him, is to be the best person he could be. And he was. So the book kind of covers how that impacted how I could heal as well. That it was just a beautiful life.
Yeah. We were hockey teammates too. I remember Jonathan, I know we talked about before the call, and
yeah.
How just truly thanks for your candor and vulnerability on that. And obviously it's in a book too. So that's it in written form. This is just a different form of that. So, and that's part of HR, and that's part of managing people and empowering people, supporting people. At the end of the day, as stated in the beginning of the call, beginning of the podcast, sorry, companies are only as good as their people. And there really is such a need out there. I'll say that here. I'll say that to anyone. I have a lot of conversations as a coach myself, JBM, and even just yesterday, a couple of calls where, there's such a need for leadership development and I guess retooling, change management. I mean, there's a lot of more need than what I think is perceived.
Well, I think
that's another podcast right there.
Well, it is, but one of the things that is really changing is that we're not just managing employees. We are assisting and managing their personal lives. And that's more important now than ever. We can't think that people don't come to us without a lot of, let's just call it baggage, right? I mean, I mean, look what we all drag around. It's how we carry it. We have to learn to carry it, but we also have to, at work, our leaders need to understand that we do have a life outside here and it does impact work. So how can we as leaders, as business owners, make sure we balance that for them and we are as flexible as possible? And in fact, understand now, again, more than ever, we're seeing the mental health issues. We have to support people. They have to be okay. And anything we need to do that is something we have to do. And it's not always, some people are like, well, I don't have money to spend. Listen, you do, because there are people that need help. They work for you. We're going to do this. And then I provide opportunities and ideas for them on how they can balance that without breaking the bank. It's a lot of just being creative. It's creative problem solving. And again, it brings us back to that flexible scheduling and all of that I talked about earlier. So, they're dealing with so much. I can't imagine with this homeschooling and, this hybrid education thing and childcare issues and fear of illness. There's a lot of things
too. I'm sure it's on both sides, right? If their parents are elderly, need help. How do we manage that? And then the kids, right?
Right.
It's themselves, but then their kids. So it's like all parts of the spectrum, right?
Exactly. So now more than ever, businesses have to be sure they're focusing on their people's and their personal lives, not just, managing what they're doing at work.
And there's one word, JBM, that needs to be practiced more than ever. It starts with an E and it ends with a Y, and it's a function of imagination and creativity, and that is empathy.
Exactly.
Right. If you're a leader, it's like when I'm out there and I'm trying to think about like what would be useful to somebody that is within my skill set and passions and my offerings. And then I think about my own life, right? It's like, here are the areas I struggle with. Here's what's interesting. And so let's try to action that and practice empathy, which again is rooted in imagination. You're a leader. Right. Your person there's something wrong. There's disengagement with one of your employees. Let's use empathy to try to understand what's happening and extend that olive branch and be there for them, and have someone like yourself, JBM, to be in there to provide that coaching potentially. And again, just all the other necessary components of good HR management. And empathy is a word that I talk about, study, research, and here we are talking about it again. So
right. Well, again, because we're dealing with people, when there's an employee struggling and I get a call of fear, just pure frustration, like I got to get rid of this person. They're just blah, blah. I stop them dead in their tracks and say, okay, back up. What have we done so far? How clear have we done about what we're doing? And what do we know about what they're dealing with that's impacting this, adverse behavior or performance at work? We have to ask people. We have to find out where they are. I'm about meet them where they are. I don't come in and solve your problems. I come in and we walk through the situation. So together we work through the solution. There's no one size fits all. We're dealing with people. So we have to understand what is going on with them and how can we help them. Before we're ready to move them along, we do need to have that step. And not only because of the legal issues, because honestly, if we do the right thing, we don't need to worry about the laws. That's, but it's just, ask questions, learn who they are. We can't pry a lot. There's a lot of things we can't touch on with employees because of the legal issues, but it's a whole different discussion when you call someone in to say, here is what I see happening. It's not working well. Can you help me understand why this is going the way it is? And let them help you solve whatever the situation is, because they're the ones that have to change. So they need to decide how they're going to change in order to make it work. So it's just a different, getting people to think differently. And then it makes that meeting easier too, because most people dread those meetings. And I'm like, you don't have to if you come at it with empathy, if you come at it with understanding, trying to understand a person. I hate to be blunt, but people don't come out to be jerks just to be jerks. They're not trying to be a jerk, and I hate to use that term, but that's often
going on there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, no, there's something wrong here. And then ultimately, if they don't choose to change once we've done all we can, then their decision is then that it's not going to work here. They'll transition out. But it's worth the steps, or the time, I should say, to take those extra steps to get to know what's going on here with your people. And, these days with the mental health and drugs, it's really getting more and more challenging for employers. So
and that's why you're there, to be their steward, to be their support. I
right.
love it.
And I love it.
Well, I got two things as we close up. And this has been so good. So you have decision makers, you have leaders, you have managers watching this right now of businesses. What are some things you would say to them that might get them thinking differently, or revisiting topics that are relevant in the realms that you operate in, that we've talked about here at length?
Well, honestly, I just think that if there's anything that they're really just struggling with in terms of their workforce, really almost anything related, a quick call, because believe me, if I can't do it, I'll let them know that. But it's just, thinking through your workplace. Don't be overwhelmed by it, but think about how positive the changes can be. It does not have to be stressful. I've been working through this a lot. I call it, just random or ad hoc clients. And most of my clients are referrals, truly, but they'll just call on something like, this person just doesn't want to work because, they're afraid to send their kid to a child care center or whatever. Well, okay, let's talk through that and walk through that. What can we do to make it so they can work? And it's that kind of thing. So that's one that came up a lot, but really anything that they need, they're out of compliance if they haven't changed handbooks. And I do an awful lot of handbooks. This past year, honestly, I don't even remember how many I've done. Now I have one that's online that they could do themselves, that they could download and customize. But a lot of people do have me do them with them and for them. One of the most important things with handbooks, though, and I would highly recommend that as something, again, with COVID, it's out of date. I could tell you that if they haven't done anything, is to, if they do.
There's a lot of that, by the way. Sorry to interrupt.
There is. But if they choose to do the handbook on their own and purchase it online, I would highly recommend they purchase the package with consulting time connected to it. Because the thing about handbooks is, and I see this all the time, a lot of people will download a handbook, think they have one, and have no idea what's in it or what it means.
Template.
No. And although I have a template, I encourage people to do it maybe, but then call me so you understand why you did it and make sure you know how to implement it. Because honestly, I can't tell you the number of people say, oh yeah, I have a handbook. They'll send it to me and it's like, this is not even, certainly not up to date, but it's not even practical. So, because they didn't understand it, they just downloaded it, figured they had it and they were done. So I say to people, you need to understand what's in it. So spend a little extra money to, get some consulting time with it so that I can make sure you're able to administer what's in there in an effective, legal, but also appropriate manner that works best for your employees. I mean, one of the best things I offer is best practices. And again, another overused phrase, but when you're out there, as long as I've been out there and you're dealing with so many different client types and organizations, I'm able to learn a lot. Yes. So I'm always learning. So I'm always able to impart that and give people the best of what's out there.
Yeah, breadth of diverse knowledge, because you work in so many industries. You've seen so many situations that maybe, a certain particular company client of yours may not have fathomed, but because you have all those years of experience, and like you said, you're an HR geek, right? This is your thing. You're an expert. You are someone that can provide that again, subject matter expertise. So that's great. Are there any like maybe one other closing remark? And again, I'm sure we'll do others of this. This has been fun.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to talk through all of this. Again, I love the field. I love what I do. Everybody needs it. I don't care if you're that little mom and pop shop. And I customize everything I do. So, gratefully, like I said, I'd say 99% of my clients are referral, and that speaks volumes for me. And it affirms that I'm doing what they need me to do, right? I'm not here to just say, oh, look at me, but I learn from their feedback to be sure I'm doing and providing what people need. And so I have to say that it happens to work that way. I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for people that let me know that and refer people, of course, but also write nice things about it as well with testimonials and things like that. So that means everything, especially when you work for yourself, because there's little opportunity for feedback. So I'm always grateful because like I said, I teach a lot, but I'm learning more. So that's it. I'm here. I love what I do. I be happy to talk with anyone. I'd like people to look at my online services.
I was going to say, where do we find you? How do we engage?
Okay. hrwebsource.com.
HR Websource. We'll have that in the caption too, in the summary.
Okay. Yeah. hrwebsource.com. There's, again, a lot of webinars on there that are very relevant. I keep them updated. I keep adding to them. There's group rates. So if people want to do supervisory training with one of the topics, some of them are less than a half an hour. A lot of them are. And again, there's the anti-harassment compliance training on there. That's utilized a lot because that's an annual thing that has to happen. And again, I do offer packages for groups to be viewing it and that sort of thing. So I think that would be one thing. The employee handbook, again, it's used a lot. It works. It's a very comprehensive handbook that's on there as well. I have blogs that I keep people current with. I'm very big on educating. That's probably my first thing is I educate in everything that I do. So I like to have my website full of information from that regard as well. And then the different HR Now is my premier product where people buy so many hours. And then they also get other types of things like client updates every week. Those who are on retainer get the latest and greatest of what they need to know and how to apply it. So they, that's one that my clients look to every week. They value that a lot because I sit through legal webinar every week. And then I impart anything that I learn that they need to focus on. So that all comes with packages that people buy. But if they look at HR Now, that's, I would say they also have discounts on webinars through that retainer option. So I don't offer a zillion things on there. I focus on what I love and what I spend most of my time doing. My team building and organizational development and change work is often video conferencing, but that's also handled in person. I do a lot of in person, obviously. So either way, I'm here.
Very good. We can find you on LinkedIn. So we can find you there as well. And just ways to connect. And again, to see what JBM is putting out to the world in way of HR and org dev. And this is awesome. So thanks again, JBM, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you and your energy. I love it.
It's been pretty even keeled today. I love the energy you've brought, as the host, the interviewer. That's I can't get too crazy. But certainly appreciate your time again, and you're lending your expertise to, our listeners and watchers. And as always, you talked about gratitude earlier. So it's, I always extend my gratitude to Vidwheel Creative Network, my podcast support team, all this great work here, the video and the sound and everything else, and production is done by them here in Buffalo, New York. So many thanks there. And again, JBM, thanks to you. And this will be exciting to release and get out to the world because it's highly useful and intentional. So thank you again.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care, everyone. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.